What's up, everyone? Sorry I made you wait there. Just trying to figure out what I was going to talk about today. And want to talk about what do you do when you're out of ideas, which occasionally hits me. Like today, I thought, I'm going to do a live stream, and I had about 20 ideas, and then I thought, no, I don't like any of them. And I thought about, what do you do when you're out of ideas? Like, how do you break out into something? How do you get out of writer's block? It's really, I think that I said ideas. I think I have a problem with my title there, Billy. Before I get started, discount code, because I know some of you want to get your Beato book for your for people for Christmas. RB 1220. And for the people that are talking about my typo in the title, I'm going to fix it as soon as we're done, so it doesn't matter. Don't get hung up on things like that, you know what I mean? Because ultimately, don't get hung up on little things like that. I had a typo in the video this week. I actually had two typos in my video where I was talking about one typo where I was trying to spell an F Lydian major 7 chord, and I spelled it F D sharp G B. No, I'm sorry. I spelled it C D sharp G B, and I should have spelled it C F sharp G B. So the D sharp was supposed to be an F sharp, but it didn't come out that way. Now, I could have really freaked out about that because I hate having typos, but ultimately, you got to let things like that go. And it's kind of like getting hung up when you're improvising or trying to come up with an idea. Getting hung up on little things instead of letting that really block your creative flow, which I think is one of the most important things. When I did an interview with Vinny Colaiuta last year for NAMM, which I'm getting ready to go to in a couple weeks, I'm always reminded of Vinny's quote. Now, those of you that don't know Vinny played drums with Frank Zappa on Joe's Garage. He played with Frank Zappa for a few years. And Vinny's been on thousands of records. He toured with Sting, but he's absolutely a brilliant musician. And I asked him, my first question was, Vinny, talk about flow. And he said the most profound thing I've ever heard. He said, thought is the enemy of flow. And what that means is you have to free your mind of things, of distractions, in order to come up with ideas and just to flow with ideas. And I think it's incredibly important when you have writer's block to do that. Many times you actually will play your way out of these things. I make so many videos that sometimes it's you might have an idea, a title, or hold on one second here. Billy usually is moderating and everything, but I don't usually get to ban people, but I just did. There we go. Oh, I feel so good now. I feel good. I had to have some fun there, Billy. Sorry.
It's all good.
Okay, so I was thinking, like, okay, well, what could we talk about today? What's something that's really valuable to being a musician or to writing music or improvising? And I thought, well, one thing is sequences. Okay, like, what is a sequence? Well, a sequence is if you play the same idea, let's say in multiple octaves. Let's say I've got to see here. Is my amp off here, Billy? Why is it? Oh, it came unplugged here. Hold on. There we go. Give you my little sustain pedal. Okay, so a sequence could be this. Something that repeats. Whoop, moved the wrong way. I'm nice and close to the screen so you can see. Okay, so this is a this sequence is this. So that is a sequence. The first part of it is this. Then I just repeat it down the octave. Then I repeat it down the next octave. And then I have to come up with some ending for it. Okay, so that's called a sequence. Now, working on sequences, I think sequences were probably the most important thing, along with motifs, because they're pretty related for improvising and writing melodies. If I take a melodic shape and try and develop it, okay, so like once again, hold on. So I did, now you notice that that's a resting spot right there. Another resting spot. Okay, so that would be a nice long sequence. I'm outlining this A6 shape, then to the major 7. Then I come down the 5th to the 3rd of A major. I'm thinking A Lydian. Let's just work with that part there. So the first part of the sequence is this. And that begins the next sequence. So I'm constantly, I have a target note there. Oh, did you see that? So what I did there is I took the first sequence and I took this first sequence and then I went into the other sequence that I began on when I was demonstrating. I went into this with a little bit of a variation on it. Okay, so let me play it again. So that's two sets of sequences. The first one, and then I jumped in there. Now that to me is a really beautiful melodic line. And it's based on this. So I've got that to there, to this. So I'm outlining triads within this scale. Then I'm going from A6 to the major 7. And this triad here is a B major, okay? When you're alternating A major and B major over a major chord, over an A major chord, that is really a Lydian sound. So A, B, A, B, A, B. Okay, so that's another sequence there I did, so. So I did another sequence there. I'm sorry. That's a beautiful one there. I love that. So what I did there is I took a 5-note sequence again, still in the key of A Lydian, which is E major, and I played a 5-note grouping, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I moved down the scale, one scale step using the exact same interval shape. That's what creates a sequence. Okay, and I always want to resolve things. I want to have some target note I'm going to so that it makes sense that so the melodic line has a direction to it and it makes sense and it resolves itself. When I do these Instagram posts, for those of you that don't follow me on Instagram, it's Rick Beato 1. And every morning I come down to the studio when I'm set up to do it, and I turn on the camera and I do a 1-minute improv. And this goes back, I've talked about this a number of times, but this goes back to a teacher that I had named Mick Goodrick when I was in grad school at New England Conservatory. And Mick had me do for an assignment for a week, take it a 1-minute improv every day and tape it, and then bring it in next week and we'll listen to him. He said, don't listen to it after you've done it. Just get out of bed, turn on your tape recorder. This is days of tape recorders, and make something up. It can be single notes, it can be chordal, doesn't matter what it is. Just play the first thing that you think of and bring it in. So we'd bring it in, and then we would listen to these things. We would analyze them, we'd break them down, we'd pick out interesting bits. And sometimes Mick would say, okay, I want you to take this one bit and write a song over this. And I say, okay. Then the next week I would come in with a song. I would take a melodic fragment, a melodic idea, and do that. And I think that was one of the most useful tips as a teacher. I think that's one of the things that Mick did. But being able to improvise, or forcing yourself to improvise and just play whatever comes, first thing that comes to mind is really important. But when you are playing ideas like this, like I just played, so ideas like, okay, so these are maybe, these things don't naturally fit under your fingers. Okay. And I'd say, okay, what am I doing? I'm doing. Okay, so I'm thinking of A major, but I'm playing A major, G sharp minor, F sharp minor, E major, D sharp diminished, then D sharp diminished, C sharp minor, B major, A major, E major. Okay, that's where that idea came from. Now, see, because I'm improvising, it's not something that, I mean, I kind of know that pattern, but I'll make a mistake on it. But I don't get hung up on making a mistake. I just think about it and I say, okay, don't make that mistake again. Try not to do that. So there's a little top part of this. The thing about a 5-note grouping there, I think it makes it really interesting. That's the motif of it. So if I think about, okay. So if I do that, that's kind of turning the line around backwards. Okay, so that was kind of tricky. I didn't know what I'm making the fingerings up as I'm going. Another sequence there. Okay, so I went through a number of different sequences there. I was trying to flow. I was really concentrating on what notes I'm playing. I'm trying to stay in the same key, but play different sequences. I started out, I used this sequence in there. Then I changed it. Instead of going, right? So I went to something like that at the time. Ooh, this is nice. Check this out. This is a combination of a couple of the sequences I did. So here's the first one. We heard that. Then I started turning it around. Oh, sorry. It's weird holding the guitar like this. Love that. That's beautiful. Okay, that's another nice sequence. Okay, so So I fit that one in that time. I tried to fit it in. I tried to flow into it. So right there, I'm combining different sequences that I've been making up as the video's been going on. So, and doing it in real time here with the pressure of having people watching me. So I'm essentially on stage right now, and I'm trying to develop ideas while being on stage, trying not to become distracted by what's going on, by the comments, but being aware that I'm actually playing in front of people. All right, so I'm trying to get these ideas out with no mistakes. But if I could clear my mind even more and really, really get that, get the flow happening, right? Like Vinny talks about. Thought is the enemy of flow. I'm trying not to think. I'm trying to hear what I'm playing. I'm trying to hear ideas that go somewhere, that have a melodic direction. Whether you're writing a melody, it doesn't matter what you're doing. Whether you're writing a melody, improvising, you always want to lead the listener in a certain way. There are melodies that I think are perfect melodies, where they have a really obvious melodic direction to them. And when you hear those kind of melodies, you know they kind of have a predictive nature to them. And then you deliver either whether it has a some pickup idea. It could be it could be Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, where it goes up on the first part of the phrase and then comes down. And the first part of the phrase, the antecedent, suggests the next part, the consequent, right? So these are this kind of question and answer idea. If you're Jimi Hendrix, right? So Jimi Hendrix is playing that. That's the first phrase. B. Again with A. B. Now that whole thing, if I play that melody, it has a really, really natural flow of phrases. The first, that's A, B, A again, B. Now here's the new phrase. And then that's a variation of that second A phrase. Okay, then it goes into the next section. That is a perfect. That's a perfect example of melodic direction with ideas and using motifs. And he's doing this A B melodic idea. Then he goes to a new A B, but they have variations in them. But essentially, those are motifs that have a question part. Here's the question. Answer. Question. It's two people talking. Then the first person. Next person. First person. Next person. Or maybe they're both together. So Jimi Hendrix was great with doing that. He knew how to create these motifs. The Beatles, the Stones, it doesn't matter. All the people that we talk about that are the great melody writers. Whether you're an instrumental guitarist like Pliny with his song Electric Sunrise that I did a video on and what makes a song great. If you haven't seen that, you should definitely check it out. And Pliny has really beautiful melodic ideas. I think one of the reasons his playing connects with so many people is because he knows how to play phrases that have a beginning and end, and that they have, and a lot of times they're not just one phrase. It's a phrase with, it's a conversation. It's a phrase that has two parts to it, or maybe it might be A, B, A, B. It might be A, B, A, C. When I did my Foo Fighters video the other day, Dave Grohl's verse melody is a perfect example of an A, B melody. The second B is a variation in the verse. And that's how you have ideas that connect with people. You have to have things that make sense, that sound like a conversation and lead the listener someplace. If you're not leading the listener, I used to just call it groping. I know that I have a friend that I used to play gigs with way back in college, and I used to crack up when he'd play, and he would just, and I'd say, "What are you doing?" He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "You're just groping around. You're not playing anything that, you're just playing through the scales, but you have no direction with what you're doing. You're just kind of hacking away." All I could think of is like going through the dark, and you're in a big, tall grass or something. You're pushing it out of the way. You have no idea where you're going. You're not directing anyone. There's that. Or you got a machete and you're slashing through the stuff, right? And creating your own path. That is the, you're either just kind of pushing stuff out of your face where you don't know, where you can't see where you're going, or you're going through there, creating your own path to walk through, right? And you're not letting anything get in your way, all right? So you got to let that melodic direction is the most important thing with your playing. That's what gives your playing, that's what makes it interesting to people. That's what makes people want to listen to you. Okay. I'm going to answer some questions here now, which I haven't done in a long time. I'm looking on here. Billy, is there any interesting questions that I would think is interesting?
Let's see here.
I guess Billy hasn't been paying attention, so otherwise he'd say, "Yeah, I have a good. I have an idea." Linda says she might be a groper. That used to be a funny thing. That was sounds like you're groping. Let's see here. What's up, Deb? What's that?
Do you think Hendrix wrote that consciously, the way he described it, or did it just sound good to his ears?
Well, ultimately, the things sound good to you. You ultimately just play what sounds good to your ears, and everybody relies on their taste, because that's all you have. Is you have your taste. What sounds beautiful to you? What sounds like an interesting melody to you? And people that can write great melodies, just naturally, take somebody like Max Martin, who has all these number one hits. You may hate his hits. You may hate his number one hits since you've been gone or whatever. But you can't deny that Max Martin can write a melody that sticks in people's heads, because that's ultimately, that's probably the most difficult thing to do. That's why, what's up, Camilo? That's why it's hard to write hit songs. People are always, poo-pooing this. Oh, yeah, hit song. Oh, it's easy to write this kind of thing. It's a cop-out or blah, blah, blah. And ultimately, it's very hard to write a hit song. If it was easy, people would be doing it all the time. Just like it's hard to have it's hard to develop a following for your band. People are always asking me, what do I do with my band? Is it worth it to make a full record? Is it this? Is it that? And I say, well, you have to develop your audience somehow. You have to develop a personal connection with your audience. And it begins with your music, typically. Are you writing things that people want to listen to over and over? Do things withstand the test of time? Rob here was talking about Tom Scholz. Now, Tom Scholz used to say things like, he'd work on a record for a couple of years, the first Boston record, and he had to find songs that he didn't get sick of. And he did. Or the Beatles that said, they didn't write their lyrics down. You don't see a lot of Beatles lyric sheets sitting around in their handwriting. Why? Because if they couldn't remember it, then it wasn't very memorable, right? That idea there to me makes perfect sense. So I think that's incredibly valuable in for how to develop your ideas, how to connect with people, is to write things that are memorable or improvise things that are memorable. And it could be Alan Holdsworth writing things that are memorable, that are really complex, but they're complex and memorable. If you listen to the tune off Secrets, the first tune, da 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 da. What is that tune? City da da da. What is it?
City Lights.
City Lights or City Nights? No, City Lights. What is the tune? City Nights. Thank you, Camilo. So I thought of that. It was like, that's a Gary Husband tune. It was written by funny about that song. Gary Husband played drums on many of Alan's records, actually wrote that song, and he didn't play drums on the record. Vinny played drums on it, on that particular song, City Nights. I also think of Cityscape, which is my favorite Michael Brecker, Klaus Ogerman tune from the Klaus Ogerman record that he did of that title, which is unbelievable, and you should definitely check out. So, discount code RB1220, today's date, 30% off anything on my channel. This is how I make a living. Most of my videos get demonetized these days. I played Highway to Hell in a video the other day where I was testing out my amp. I wanted to play something familiar with people so they would actually hear the sound, because it's incredibly important. And then as soon as the video's put up, it's demonetized by AC/DC. Now, I don't know why AC/DC needs to demonetize my video over me. It's obviously me just playing it. You know, a bot should be able to tell that, unless I was at the exact same tempo. But this video probably will get demonetized because I played some Hendrix in it, but whatever. Anyhow, I have a couple announcements. I'm going to be at NAMM for those of you that are going to NAMM or live in the LA area and want to come down. I'm going to be at Universal Audio, I believe, on that Thursday. I think it's the 16th, Billy. Is that when that day is? I think it's the 16th. 16th of January. And then I'm going to be at Gibson doing a talk with Rhett and Dave. I think on that Friday is what it's going to be. But it'll be in the schedule there. So those of you that are on here that want to come down and say hello, thank you, Joshua. Then I think that that would be a great time to say hello and meet some of you. So if you see me, don't come up to me and say, "Hey, Rick, what's up?" and then shake my hand. Tell me what your name is. I always think that's weird. People come up to me and they say, "Rick, it's great to meet you. What's your name?" So I always have to say that. But I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to seeing all the new things that are coming out. NAMM is one of my favorite things to do. I've been going the last few years, again, after not going for about 25 years. So I'm looking forward to that. So hopefully I will meet some of you in person. And there's already a few people in the chat right now that I have met in person, like Deb. Camilo was here in my studio. And Camilo, you did a killer video on Instagram the other day. Loved it. Those of you that don't know Camilo Valendia, Camilo is an amazing guitar player. What's up, Phil? Good to see you. Mr. Beato, okay? No, don't call me Mr. Beato either. And when people refer to me as Beato in the comments, that always cracks me up. I hate that. I probably shouldn't tell you that I hate that. Anyhow, so you guys are amazing. Oh, yeah, Billy, Camilo's sick, right?
Yep, he's incredible.
Camilo's never been to the studio here, so he came in and I said, "All right, Camilo." He's looking at my wall of amps. I was like, "Okay, you're going to play through every amp here." And Camilo, I think we played through just about every single one. Billy was just pulling them down, putting them up, plugging them in. I was like, check this out. And I love having my guitar playing friends over that have never been here before so they can try stuff out. And Camilo sounded amazing.
Just disgusting.
It was great. It was really great. Anyhow, you guys are awesome. Follow me on Instagram, RickBeato1. If you want to support the channel even more, become a member of the Beato Club. Part of the Beato Club, one of the levels is that I do a reaction video on your music. And I never mention that on here because it's always filled up. But I think we have a couple spots open right now. So if you want to have your music listened to by me, I have people send it to me all the time and I don't have time to listen to it. Thank you, Austin. Appreciate that. Super chat. Amazing. And Merry Christmas for those of you that it's Christmas. Happy holidays. You guys are incredible. Thank you for being here. If you haven't seen my Foo Fighters video, check it out. My next What Makes a Song Great is number 80. Another milestone, another 10. But we got to get to 100. All right. We'll talk later. Thank you.